Well, now that you've decided to opt for a mirrorless or a DSLR camera, you're probably wondering whether the kit lens that you got with the camera is okay for food photography. Well, the good news is that it is, but ideally you should add at least one more lens to it. Before we get into that, let's look at some of the terminology around lenses. The numbers that are written on your lens, for example, they might say 18 to 55mm or similar, are the focal length of the lens. And this simply tells you how wide the field of view of the lens is and how far it can zoom. So turn the lens, zoom in and out as you look through the viewfinder. And when you're at a focal length of 18mm, for example, the lens isn't zoomed in at all. And when you're zoomed in as much as it will go, the focal length is 55. There are longer focal lengths available, but 18 to 55 is absolutely fine for food photography because you don't need to zoom very far. You can capture wide scenes, but you can also zoom in enough to capture small details. So here on the left, you can see a shot that was taken at 18mm, so not zoomed in at all, quite a wide angle shot. And then on the right, there's the same image taken at 55mm from exactly the same spot as before. You might notice how much the background's blurred in the shot on the right. The camera settings were identical, but the more you zoom in, the more the background blurs. The lens that you do really need in your kit bag for food photography is the 50mm f1.8 prime lens featured here. Now, prime refers to the fact that this lens doesn't zoom, it's fixed, and you will hear these two terms used interchangeably. If you want to fit more in the frame, you step backwards, and if you want a closer shot, then you move forward. So in effect, your legs have become the zoom. Now, these prime or fixed lenses produce superior quality images compared to zoom lenses. Now, this can mean that they're quite expensive, but not in this case, which is great news. It usually costs about £100 to £150 for a 50mm f1.8 lens. It's affectionately referred to as the Nifty 50, and it's really well loved by photographers. It's also sometimes called a portrait lens, but it's equally suited to food and other genres, and it's a really great lens to have in your kit. The f1.8 is referring to the lens's maximum aperture, and this is better, i.e. bigger, than your kit lens can deliver. We will be looking at this in more detail in a future session, but for now it means that A, it's great for photography in low light, and B, it creates those really lovely soft focus backgrounds that you can see in this shot here. So notice in this shot how much the stack of macaroons stands out against the background, because the background is so soft focus, and even the fabric in the background is out of focus. So both of these shots were taken at a focal length of 50mm. The image on the left was shot with the 18 to 55 kit lens, but with the lens zoomed in to 50mm, whereas the image on the right has been shot with a 50mm f1.8 fixed lens. So they both show the same field of view, but you can see how different they are. Using the Nifty 50, the photo board in the background is much more blurred, as is the foreground, and even the macaroons slightly behind the stack of 3 are blurred. Now, if you like to shoot super close-up details, you should consider buying a macro lens. This shot was taken with a 105mm f2.8 macro lens. Now note that it has only got the one focal length, and that's how you know whether it's a prime or fixed lens. 90mm or 105mm is a good focal length for food photography. The usual maximum aperture for a macro lens is f2.8. Because you'll be shooting so close up with it, that's more than enough to produce the extremely soft focus backgrounds that we like. And again, it delivers the lovely image quality that you get with a prime lens, and it lets you shoot a lot closer than you can with a standard lens like your kit lens. Now, macro lenses can be quite expensive, for example, from £300 to £700 or more. So it's worthwhile taking a look at other brands like Tamron and Sigma, who make great quality lenses, but typically at lower prices. Always read reviews which compare different macro lenses, and check for the 1:1 magnification factor that indicates that it actually is a macro lens. Some lenses claim to be macro when they actually aren't. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the 3 lenses that I've been talking about for food photography. First of all, you've got the 18 to 55mm lens or similar focal length, which is great for wider shots, flat lays, that's those overhead shots, and you can also shoot fairly close-up details with it. Then you have the 50mm f1.8 lens, which produces those lovely soft focus backgrounds and will probably be your go-to lens for food photography, especially as it's really great for low light indoor situations. And then finally, you've got the macro lens. Now, I'd say really that this is a nice to have lens, not something you have to have in the first instance, but something that you can add to in the future if you find that you really like doing close-up details. I hope you're fairly pleasantly surprised that you can get really great results with just a couple of inexpensive lenses.